today as a representative of Dungarvan and West Waterford Chamber. I'm a director. So it is going to be a really interesting talk from Rob Cass. And Rob is the director of Falcon Real Estate, the developers who are developing the North Quays. So I think we're all really excited to hear what Rob has to say. Rob is a family man originally from Dungarvan and is passionate about creating a better environment for his children. So Rob is going to talk to us about why Waterford, the timeline, and the really positive outlook for Waterford, Dungarvan and West Waterford. Without further ado, I'd like to bring Rob on. Thank you. And sorry, Rob will speak for 15 minutes, and when Rob is finished, he will be open to questions. So you can pop your questions here, and then I will ask Rob the questions. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Regina. Thanks, everybody, for joining in. I know it's lunchtime, so I'm going to keep this brief when I go through the deck. I'm going to quickly go through why we're doing North Quays, why Waterford and the Southeast, why it's such a positive place to back and invest in, why I believe in its growth, and the timeline. The output I want to share with you is when we get on to the questions and answers. I'm going to share a deck, but effectively I'll upload that so everybody can see that, because one of our key learnings in our story has been an absence of what we call long-term projections and really why we're investing 400 million into an undersupply of what we call 6 billion in the Southeast today, with growth potential of 16 billion. So we're just proud to be the catalyst, or one small catalyst as part of that. Our little story was, I'm obviously, as Regina said, I'm from Dungarvan, Colligan, extradited for 20 years. I went to university in the UK, worked in Goldman Sachs, Shell, Unilever, Flora, Dove, went then into consulting, Apple, joined our Saudi group, where I was the strategy director overseeing their growth from 350 fashion stores, 2 shopping malls, to then expanding to 20 countries within 5 years, to 3,500 stores, 20 shopping centres, 12,000 homes a year, and 3.5 billion of solar, which is our group. Our group is owned by 3 entrepreneurs. So that was very exciting. And then I returned back home to bring up my then 2 kids in Dungarvan, because family is important to me. We came across the site of North Quays, which is a stunning 16 acres. We've been at this for 3 years. We secured planning there in July, so we're ready to begin. So this is the kind of the story of going the next 3 years, 4 years on that journey of why we're backing, why I believe in Waterford, and I believe in its and outstanding growth potential. So I'm going to take you through kind of I guess I'm just going to take you through the video very quickly, and I appreciate most people will have seen this, and if not, no problem, we'll just start it now. I hope you can hear that music. It doesn't sound. I apologize. This is apologies for the speed. I'll just take that off at the end. So what we've got then, so I'm going to now go over to the presentation so we get into the meat and bones of things. So we've got why and why we have such potential in this. So if I go, I'm going to go through it very quickly. Apologies, 1 second. So at a glance, it's an 18-acre site in the city, moving the train station across. The train will then be 60 minutes every 60 minutes to Dublin, which Irish Rail are working on at the moment. It's 300 apartments, 13,000 offices, which will employ about 1,100 tech jobs, 200 key hotel, and a visitor centre for 6,800 square meters, which is a multi-experience centre between virtual reality and a visitor tourism centre. I'll get onto that. There's going to be an exciting announcement of what that is next month. We've the first shopping centre, if you like, of scale in the region. There isn't a regional scale shopping centre, and it expects 10 million footfall. Importantly from us, from a sustainability perspective, the Greenway connects in here. We've more spaces for bikes than we have for car parks. So the car park is completely hidden underground. So in terms of visitors, we expect 10 million footfall, which is language and jargon, but it means that there's currently about 2.5 million passengers on the train. And the bus moves across from the South Quays to the North Quays. You put all in one centre. And we expect that to grow to about 4 million using public transport directly into the site, on the back of the train being then effectively commuter to Dublin, and it has to be faster than car to Dublin, which unlocks in a work from home COVID environment. It was always going to be happening, but then it's easier to get to Dublin by train and public transport than it is by car, and cheaper. You've seen the video, so you've kind of seen it's from a community perspective. What's extremely important to us is it is access to the community. It is 20 to 30% open and green space to access the quayside. It is by definition one of the most exciting sites in Europe. When you come out of Waterford and you take a global view on things, that you have stunning South Quay vistas. You've got access to a beautiful waterfront. You've got 200 days of sunshine. And what we designed was making sure that it's open to the community, lots of space for people to enjoy it 24/7. From a creative, from an artistic, from a marketplace perspective, is extremely important that when you're creating community developments, the most important thing is that you're essentially thinking 20, 30, 40 years time on how you leave a legacy. And we view this as Waterford's opportunity to become the best city to live in Ireland, if not one of the top 10 in Europe. So why Waterford in the southeast, and therefore why Ireland? Ignoring COVID, because COVID's a blip, we think 20-year horizon. So we've the fastest growing economy. We expect that to continue to be the fastest growing economy to 2030 to 2040. I'm going to share this pack effectively. I'm not going to walk through all the numbers because it's more about the questions. But effectively, why it's going high growth in Ireland to continue. Importantly for Waterford in the southeast, Waterford's catchment is actually the largest catchment within 60 minutes of any regional city. It's a 600,000 catchment. It's larger than Cork. It's significantly larger than Galway and Limerick. So we currently have, as a positive within that catchment, over 20 billion cash in our accounts, in our homes, in our communities and businesses on deposit. We've been the wealthiest, which is really important. So what that means is we've retail spend at the moment of about 5 billion. We've tourism spend of 530 million, rising to about 2 billion with 2 billion visitors by 2030. So from an outlook perspective, the key is kind of where we're undersupplied. We have an undersupply today in the southeast of what justifies our 400 million investment is an undersupply of about 6 billion today across housing, offices, retail, tourism, which is extremely exciting. And then the outlook because of Ireland 2040 population growth sees another 16 billion being added through that population growth. Because it is wonderful in Ireland. We have a very high population growth, which leads to that strong growth outlook, and we have a long-term horizon. So this isn't just short term. We have about, I think, what that means from Ireland 2040. It means we need 75,000 new homes in the southeast. We need about 90,000 square meters or 9,000 jobs. Student accommodation needs about 380,000 on the back of the uni growing 50%. And tourism is currently undersupplied by about 800 beds at 4 hotels, which will be further boosted with Greenway going into the city. But we also need, if we look further out, is about 2,000 beds, which is about 20 hotels out to 2040. So when you look at the next one is kind of the infrastructure and tourism. When you bring all of that, when we work from international, you merge the train, the bus, you give it essentially European living brought to Ireland for the first time. And around that grows the potential to grow from better infrastructure. It's wonderful to see the government announcing the capital plan. We're expecting that there's going to be better and long-term horizon investments in capital, particularly on more sustainable forms of transport. So I'm whizzing through this to get to the questions, because for us, where view is going, we have to share all of this with communities so that all our businesses prosper and rise on the back of it. So effectively, in the southeast, we've an undersupply today in homes of 15,000, which is 3.2 billion. And with the rising population growth, that's 75,000 homes in the southeast. Waterford's about 25% of that. So it's about an undersupply today, about 800 to 1,000, 1 billion undersupply in Waterford today on housing. And that's backed up with mortgages. So that's mortgages already approved within the catchment. And if you look at what's the exciting pipeline that we're involved in as well, directly or indirectly, we've got Kilbarry coming online, which is 2,000 new homes, Ferrybank, which is 2,500 homes. The smaller developments like Gracestew, and this is obviously in the city, because we have to bring on the housing supply to meet the North Quays jobs. Same on offices. That population needs offices. We don't really have prime offices of scale in Waterford City. If you don't build the offices, you therefore don't have the tech jobs and therefore the high value jobs. If you don't have the high tech jobs, you then don't get the growth. And one of our root causes in Waterford of the under delivery has been we lose one in 4 young people has left the county, and we want to bring a lot of them back. So we've had 50,000 young people leave the southeast in the last 10 years, and we view this as kind of an opportunity to bring many of them back when we build and when we collaborate and work together. From a tourism perspective, Greenway has had a great impact, but we are under indexing and underperforming to Galway. So we've got an undersupply today of about 125 million. And that rises to 2040, so there's great opportunities for those in the hospitality to grow. Retail is the same, so we've got a significant no supply of quality retail in Waterford at the moment, with a lack of brands, and that results in what we call leakage of 1.2 billion. So we spend in Waterford in the southeast 1.2 billion of 24,000 jobs outside the region today. Be that in Cork, be that in Dublin, be that in Kildare Village, and that's jobs. So that's 24,000 jobs. I'm going to move on now to kind of the timeline, because I'm just conscious of time. Where we're at the moment, planning was granted in July. Government funding is expected to be announced in the next 2 weeks. We've secured our financing, ready to start building. Hoarding will go up in December. It's a 4-year build. So on much of the units, where in some of the units it'll be ready, but effectively all of next year is laying down a podium and piling, which is kind of like what I call to my kids green Lego block, and then on top of that you're building for 2 years. So it's a back end of 2023 to allow Christmas trading. And what that creates is 2,500, 2,000, 3,000 jobs on site and 4,500 jobs indirectly. So that's kind of coming to what it means for Waterford and the southeast, and also Dungarvan, because all those jobs we're hoping will come from Waterford and the southeast, that talent moving back. That Dungarvan one busload of young people that's leaving because through a lack of jobs will then be now staying in the county and staying in the region to stay in their communities. This is kind of what it looks like if you're looking back in Ferrybank. It's unique that you have actually cows within 5 minutes of a city, and we expect all of that to be populated with jobs in the foreseeable future. If you got from a jobs breakdown of where do all those jobs come from, primarily in the offices. Everybody's been focused on the shopping centre because it's the interest of ongoing. Yes, we've got Zara and others, but there's about 1,350 jobs going into the offices. I'll have an announcement next week on what that is. So it's US media and tech, which is very, very exciting, very creative, extremely attractive. But I'll announce that joint venture next week. And then across, you've obviously got the retail jobs that are created, jobs in the construction, and we're hoping much of that talent comes from Waterford in the southeast. And economic benefits of why the infrastructure. So effectively, we as a taxpayer and we as taxpayers are being asked to pay for the bridge, the road, the train to connect onto the site. But our 400 million pays for that within the first 2-3 years. And the government then recycles that cash to build the bridge, build the roads, build everything. And then once all the development opens, it adds about 270 million a year to the economy, across the economy. So that provides trade. So from a chamber perspective, that's where suppliers, businesses on site, adds trade. And then you've got the spillover into the city and the spillover into the catchment. So from a taxpayer perspective, it gets a tenfold return on infrastructure investment, which is why the government are so supportive of it. And it's a foreign direct investment. Where we're at is that we signed contract to buy it in 2018. That hasn't been closed. It closes when we have evidence of the cabinet funding, which is, as I said, in 2 weeks. And we get title certainty, so then we actually can buy and build. So I call it a crane on site for Easter, but hoarding up for Christmas. I'm going to show you the pictures, but why Waterford as well is important is we're 50% cheaper than Dublin. There's huge interest. We've commercialized the offices already. The apartments are pre-sold to a US community developer. The work from home from COVID we expected that to happen. We didn't expect COVID to happen. We expected work from home to happen faster, but it effectively means you're saving €13,000 a year on rent or mortgage. We all know that, but it's how do we get the talent back? So we know it's cheaper. I'm sharing this, and I'm sharing this. There's a huge interest in mortgages at the moment with 30% rise, 300%, 200% increase in housing searches, and everybody gets the quality of life is here. So we're just privileged to say, okay, we're just fulfilling that and being a catalyst towards it. That people now get it, that it's such a high quality of life rather than living in Dublin. People want to move here. From what's on it, why it's important for what's in it for Waterford and Dungarvan. It's going to be an innovation district. So how we operate is called 20% of the rent. We don't ask them to pay rent. We actually give free rent. And we give equity to help startups grow, because a lot of the startups fall and fail due to lack of shortage in cash. So there's an innovation district for creatives, because we want to become a kind of a creative city that lures in talent and makes us a destination, not just in the southeast, but for Ireland's talent. Then you've got it's a smart city, so we've got the infrastructure, the greenways, the return on capital,
human capital particularly, and quality of life. So I'm big on sustainability. The development itself is 100% renewable powered, solar on the rooftop terraces, ready to go. Few pictures, hotel, second highest building in Ireland for hotels, and actually has finance, unlike the Cork development, which was just announced yesterday, which got planning, and delighted to see Cork get that scale. But it's 15 stories with stunning views down the quayside. I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to, instead of cutting that, you're all going to see that, but I'm going to turn it out now to questions, because we've got only just 7 minutes left. And I want to get around to lots of questions. So Regina, what are the questions? Happy to take them.
First of all, thank you very much, Rob. That was fascinating. We have some very good questions. So the first question is from Peter O'Flynn. As the global retail industry is in a state of decline, even before the influence of COVID, and with this due to continue going forward, who do you see as being the occupiers for a regional shopping scheme when existing schemes are suffering badly all over Europe?
Yeah, it's a good question. Retail in Ireland isn't suffering, so it's up 9% year on year and continues. As I said before, Peter, there's an undersupply in the region. The retail has shifted, obviously, it's digital led now. But with a leakage of 750 million and only a trade in the city of 250 million, by reversing all the leakage, and that's our choices, not shopping local, we treble spend. Who's going into it as an outlet village operator in Europe, and outlet villages are percentage of turnover, not long-term leases. So we've 20 shopping centres and 3,500 brands, but it's all percentage turnover now. So we're not interested in long-term leases. Why? Because in 20 years, most of those brands even don't exist. So it's the level of interest from a retail perspective is outstanding. It's a food and beverage led offering, which is a marketplace. So we're hoping to put all the what we call the brilliant startups and the brilliant existing in the region under one roof called a Mercato. So that concept exists in Mayfair at the moment and in Lisbon. So we're just replicating that concept here. So we don't have any concerns about retail because of its growth and the chronic undersupply and not shopping local, the lack of experience at the moment. So they're declining in the UK, they're not declining elsewhere. So it's very much the market is undersupplied.
Well, it's great to hear that you're so confident, Rob. Now, Thomas Byrne has asked a very good question here. Rob mentions that the train going from Waterford to Dublin, 60 minutes every 60 minutes. Is there significant upgrades needed to the current line for this to happen? And what involvement or commitment do Irish Rail have to this goal currently?
The second question is have already designed by Irish Rail. They were ready, I would call it like Thomas the Tank Engine, which is they're ready probably about 3 years ahead of schedule. 60 minutes, every 60 minutes, it requires an upgrade at Kilkenny and Kildare. It's about 40 to 60 million capital investment. But as you've just seen, the Exchequer benefit, we're getting 1.2 billion. So we're working with Irish Rail and to say, okay, well, let's make that happen by 2025. So if we're getting 1.225 billion and it unlocks particularly housing, if you look at why it's infrastructure led, it unlocks about 2,000 homes, which creates Exchequer revenue of about 400 million. So that'll pay for the upgrades, hopefully, on the train. But Irish Rail are ready, and they're very excited. And it's huge cabinet involvement of going. That's not significant capital to unlock Exchequer and housing and at a better quality of life, if I'm blunt. But they're looking at it at the moment, heavily looking at it at the moment in the design. But it's already, the tracks have already been designed to allow for that. It's just more the upgrade is further up the line. Thanks, Thomas.
Okay, thanks, Rob. Liam Keneally has asked, what % of the overall development has been de-risked by forward funding selling? We've forward sold. So first of all, I've got all construction finance in place, and we've sold the apartments 298. We've sold the hotel, so that's we've sold 75% of the offices, and we're doing a joint venture with the international outlet village operator. So it's all financed and it's ready to build. So it's more than 55% has been de-risked, but on the back of the strength of the economics and the macro growth, we have full 100% finance. So John Fogarty's asked a question that sort of ties in with your last point there. Who are the apartments sold to, and what was the rationale behind a bulk sale?
Bulk sale, so 290 was 298 because they're a community developer. It's a very interesting model. We want to partner with them for, they bring on, they don't charge excessive developer profit. We're minimum, it's our belief in community, which is minimum developer profit, minimal to market rent. Because we want a longer term partnership with them to say, okay, get the model right and scale it across every other city in Ireland. That was our rationale for that. John, I'm happy to take a few of them out of it, but we're at terms for 290. I can sell some of the penthouses, John, if you want to buy them, but and I'll take them out. But they're a fascinating model. Our view is we want to bring them to Ireland from the US because we're missing in Ireland what we call a community developer model. So this is the first time we'll have community development, effectively PRS, community development, in Ireland. So I wanted to lead Ireland on that, and now it's delivered. So it's contracted, but there's more opportunities.
Okay, thanks Rob, thanks John. Somebody has put an anonymous question here. We have no government minister from Waterford. Does the project have the full backing of the Irish government, noting that they've been provided minimal funding thus far, and maybe you've a good answer to counteract that? In
2 weeks, the government have been outstanding in the background. I think a lot of this is speculation on what's actually happening, and we're at the coalface, or I'm at the coalface, which is there's nothing but support to this. It's a huge scheme to allow people to get their head around, because it's the first time we've ever had joined up cross-departmental, sustainable, real community development. We've not done this. Ireland's got a gap on urban regeneration, so there's nothing to do with government funding from Waterford. All the T's are behind this. I'm regularly updating. The full government support has always been in place. It was just more getting the financing in place and the mechanisms in place. Those mechanisms have taken a while, but they're really behind this. We just need to crack on.
Very good.
So it has full backing. The direct question is, does the project have full backing? Yes, noting that they've provided minimal funding. That's not necessarily the truth. The council has spent probably about 10 million on this, enabling the site already to get the position. So I'd expect full funding to be announced in the next 2 weeks. On the back of what I said is going, we know the benefits. The government knows the benefits. When we're getting an 8-fold return, and particularly the jobs are really positive. It's giving a positive social return, which is why this full government support.
Thank you, Rob. Jamie Moore has asked, great to hear a narrative around communities and community development. Would be really interested to hear about community stakeholder engagement approach and any opportunity for communities to participate in co-design, benefits, etc. Now, that could be a long answer, so Rob, just
Jamie. Time. No, Jamie. It's look. I've grown up from Colligan. I'm about community. We've got the opportunity to make communities miles better and far more equitable and far more social outcomes. So what that means is around the designs of in the next 6 months. I'd love to get feedback on what companies startups go into food and beverages. How do we design? And I call it there's a space on one side for planting. Like grow it your own. Obviously, men's shed are in there. Bees, it's absolutely vital in the next 6 months. Everyone gets involved to say, okay, get your opinion on what should go there, because this is our city and our community. I'll be like in the website we'll build. It's getting people involved to say, who do you want to see there? Because the brands love that. They're really excited by saying. And equally, we put, by design, we put 20% of the space towards startups. We back startups with capital and free rent. Because our view is going, if they do well, everyone does well. And then hopefully we can take them international. Because there's huge potential for much of the capability more from the Southeast to go international. Like we're not exporting enough. So like we have 20 locations to get 600 million people. Let's help them get bigger and fund them and help them grow. Be that in any way we can. So that's I know, Jamie, that it's growing, but there's huge benefits in that of going. If they grow, we grow. Yeah.
Lauren O'Brien has asked, and there's a few other people who are asking similar questions, have contracts been signed for construction works, both site enabling and construction of buildings? If not, when do you expect tenders to be issued?
Ronan, I can't sign contracts until we own the site. So, which would be, we expect to sign the hoarding contracts to go to a tender next month. That's just the enabling works. The full design, detailed design would be Q1 and appointments would be Q2. So Q2, I would expect tenders to be issued. Yeah. Zoe has got a good question about the 12K moving talent. And
can I ask you to pause on that for a second, because I just want to tie in on another point that matches that. James O'Mahony, similar question, and wants to know, will the slide be available to attendees after the webinar?
Yes, all slides. I put everything, all information has to be shared so we can see the numbers and we can see the growth and we can see, we believe in the potential, because the more people see what's coming, the more we can act as catalysts to help small businesses particularly see that there's growth ahead.
Great, thank you. And I hope, James, that Rob answered your question there with the last question. Okay.
Zoe has a really good one. We're talking about this.
Don't worry, that's a really, really good one. I just want to make sure, because there's quite a few builders and contractors asking that question. And because, look, we want to make sure.
All tenders are going to be run through, and I do not approach me directly. All tenders are going to be run through Karen and Walsh. Karen and Walsh in Waterford is our program director. Outstanding work. But I won't be fielding any tenders. They'll be managing the process. There's quite a lot of interest, not just from Waterford, but internationally.
Great.
In this project.
Thanks for clarifying that, Rob. So Zoe Penkard's question is invaluable. Can you explain more about the 12,000 loan to attract back talent?
Yeah, so we've been wondering how, like we said, this essentially for Waterford and like on me, how do we get back the talent? What our root cause of why we're underperforming would be we've lost a generation. We've lost 50,000 to the southeast. So the credit union and I are going and Falcon Real Estate and Waterford Whispers are going to announce a 12K to 15K loan to relocate back to Waterford in the southeast. That has been approved by their board and ready to go active. So we're going to be promoting that on our website on going, move back to Waterford, move back to southeast, and you qualify for 12K to 15,000 loan. Which was effectively the difference in your rent or mortgage that you'll be paying for versus Dublin. So that'll boost trades, because effectively if you're coming back and you're spending money in our community and our businesses, it's a much needed boost for them in the high street. And traders, but equally it creates the housing demand. That's 200,000 of homes per home, rather than spending 400,000 in Dublin. So we're delighted to work with the credit union on that, and we'll fund the website to do that, to attract people back, and equally that ties back into Jamie's question on the community, going, well, how do we make ourselves better? So the first phase is launch in 2 weeks. And then in 4 weeks, we'll be saying, well, okay, have an input into what we should be looking at for in the North Quays in 4 weeks' time. And so when you're back for Christmas, our phrase is going, move back, come back at Christmas, stay home, save yourself 12K, but make a difference for the next generation and be part of making Waterford an amazing place to live, because we've an outstanding quality of life. But the next decade is going to be really exciting if we move back. And the credit union say about 1,000 a year to come back to Waterford, which is huge. That's about 200 million in trade, or half the impact of COVID negativity. So that's the kind of loan we're working with the credit union.
Great. Well, thank you, Rob. We've actually gone through all of the questions. And I guess the question I'd like to finish with is, look, we've been hearing about the North Quays for a very long time. Yeah. There's a number of people out there who are skeptical. Is it going to happen? So I suppose the question I ask Rob, is this really going to go ahead?
Yeah. People only see it, it's like an iceberg, Regina. All the work has been done. It's designed. It's ready to go. It's financed. It's just a question of getting going. I understand the frustration. I thank people. It's been 2 years, probably delayed. But I think when the hoarding goes up, fine. When the announcement next week of going who's moving in, even better. But people need to get ready going. The smart people will start moving back now, because what we find when we do this is property prices that start to build. Now, if you wait for 3 years and then you move back, great. It's great to see Ferrybank getting a bump, and it's great to see the city will get a significant bump from it. But anyone saying it's not happening, okay, we're putting our money where our mouth is. We'd like you to be involved in making it happen. I can understand the negativity, but having done this many times in many countries, it's happened. I wouldn't be in a call talking about it unless it is.
Fantastic. Well, I wanted you to finish off with that, Rob, so that's great. We're looking forward to the announcement regarding the funding, because that's the catalyst for the whole thing to drive on, and then the hoarding. So, Rob, I'd like to say on behalf of Waterford, Dungarvan and West Waterford Chamber, a sincere thank you for that great presentation. My name is Regina Mangan. I'm a director with Dungarvan and West Waterford Chamber. I'd like to thank Jenny and her team for organising this great webinar with Rob. Thank you. And I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't remind you all that you have a great opportunity to support our community by buying the Dungarvan and West Waterford gift vouchers for Christmas to reward staff and whatnot, because that money is pivotal to supporting our business in our community. And as they say, it is a rising tide that lifts all boats. And on that note, thank you all for attending. Rob, thank you sincerely. Thanks, and we look forward to the next announcement.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.